We're back. Hi there, bee enthusiast. Welcome to Buzz TV. Brian Race, Ray Sivitz. If I'm not mistaken, Ray, this is episode number 5 of our little show here that we've put together to help people become a better beekeeper and to grow in their knowledge and understanding of what we just both think is an amazing hobby, something you've been doing for a long time.
And amazing people.
It really is. And that is one of the themes that sort of develops out of our show tonight is we have some more exciting interviews that we're going to get to. I'll tell you about those in just a moment, but I know a lot of people have tuned in just because they want to know what's going on for the 2023 bee season. Can you tease anything there?
Yeah, we've got all the updates for the 2023 bee season as of today. And
what does that mean? I know that you'll go into the specifics, but when we say a bee season update, what are we really talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about, first of all, what dates are closed and sold out, what ones are close to being sold out.
To buy packaged bees.
Exactly. And then our shipping schedule, because of winter weather that can sweep in February and early March here, it can pose delays. Or our rainy season, as it's been ever since November, can also impact the queen yards, and we're going to get into that there.
Boy, I'm ready for spring. Yeah. I'm ready to get back out into the yard and just hear the stories from folks. Of course, stories a big theme of what's going on. Those that have been following us know that through the generosity of so many people, you and I were able to take a trip down to the west coast of Florida and help get some beekeepers who just were devastated by Hurricane Ian back up and going. And we've got the final 2 interviews that were conducted. You're going to love hearing from Brad and Shawn. They're amazing.
And Brad's got a really amazing story, and I can't wait to share that later in the broadcast on that there.
Many will remember Bobby Chaisson, North Georgia Bee Removal. He always has great information to share. He'll be our special guest, and we're glad you're here. Thanks for hanging with us on Buzz TV.
Well, let's go to the 2023 bee season. And here's today's bee season update for the 2023 bee season. We are seeing elevated sales across Italian packages, Carniolan packages, and Russian hybrids. We are currently on schedule, but I must remind everybody is our schedule is dependent on weather. And between now and the first week of March is highly critical for our queen yards. If we have a lot of rain, that means the queens will not be on mating flights. If there is cold temperatures, we could lose a whole cycle of queens. So these 2 weeks are very, very important for us on our side to make sure that we deliver quality packages to you, our customer. And that is today's bee season update.
Thank you, Ray, for that update. I know everybody wants to know, are we on schedule here? As you noticed, if you were reading at the bottom of the screen, check on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at mountainsweethoney.com for the latest updates. There could be delays,
Brian,
changes.
We try to get as much information out real time to our customers because this year we're going to have somewhere around 40,000 customers that are going to be wanting supplies or wanting to purchase bees from us and want to know when they're going to be in so they can take time off from work or go on vacation. And this is a mechanism that we have put into place to help resolve that because our phone lines are absolutely jammed for about 8 weeks. And so we want to be great communicators on our side and getting this information out. If all else fails, folks, you can call us on our phone system and just get into the queue that gives the bee season update, and you'll hear my voice and have the update that way too. We're just trying to get as much media available for you as our customers so that you know real time what's happening here in Georgia.
And if we need to come back into the Buzz TV studio to record a special update, we'll send it to all of those channels. All the more reason to follow and subscribe and just be connected. Notification bells turned on so that you'll be the first to know.
And this is the first time we've done so much media on our bee season update, adding our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel too.
Yeah, so constant information's being put up there, and you may have seen on some of the channels some of the interaction that we had with people there in Western Florida, Southwest Florida, the Fort Myers area. And we've got an interview that I think you're really going to enjoy coming up.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brad.
Yes. Or we could talk about Shawn.
All right. Let's do Shawn first. All right.
I was ready to roll with Shawn. He wants to roll with Brad, but they're both phenomenal, have phenomenal stories. And the thing I remember most about Shawn, besides the humility that's going to come across as you watch this interview, was just the sign he had in his yard about being on the lookout for rattlesnakes and alligators. That made me very nervous, standing there with a camera and wondering what's going on, because his backyard, a little bit of a nature habitat.
Yeah, he has some roosters and some chickens there and a dog or two. You'll probably hear barking in the background, but this is real world stuff. Talking about real people that are doing beekeeping and have lost their bees. And let's go ahead and let's roll that clip, Brian. Hi, everybody. We are in Northport, Florida, and I have Shawn with me. Shawn, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shawn Gubody. Live in Northport. Been a Florida resident all my life.
And Shawn, let me ask you, how long have you been a beekeeper?
Roughly 4 years now.
All right.
It started when I came across a beehive at a property that I worked, and of course I didn't want them destroyed, So I contacted another beekeeper, and he came out and showed me how to actually capture the bees and relocate them. And
that was your first hive?
That was my first hive.
All right.
It was pretty amazing because they were very gentle bees. You know, they were moving from one spot to another.
Yes.
And I was able to put my hand right in the middle of the hive and basically pick them up and scoop them into a box.
Barehanded.
Barehanded.
All right. Very good.
And ever since then, it was kind of, this is pretty neat. I can do this.
Now, Shawn, I also see that you have chickens here too.
Yes, sir.
And so, folks, that's not me roosting over here. That's some of Shawn's next to kin, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
the wife's project.
Well, Shawn, you know, September the 28th was a hard day. And how many days notice did you get that, hey, this hurricane's coming your way?
Well, we had, you know, it was the 7 to 10 day, it could come your way.
Yes.
And as time got closer, it came down to, 4 days, and then it was about 6 hours that we knew that we were going to go right through the eye.
Okay, so you only had 6 hours notice here on the local side?
Yes, sir.
That you guys were in the path?
We were directly in the path. They had projected that it would be more into Tampa Bay.
Sure.
And we wouldn't be hit as hard. But of course it made that right-hand turn and went from here Fort Myers bound.
So leading up, when you were a week out and not knowing where the hurricane was coming or going, obviously you're thinking about batting the hatches down on the house, getting everything put up so that it doesn't become a flying object.
Yes, sir.
And talk to us a little bit what some of your planning was during that time.
A lot of the planning was protecting the house, first of all.
Yes.
Putting the shutters up, boarding up the back porch so the roof wouldn't get so much wind. It was kind of, we were trying to plan on which way the wind direction would be hitting us the most.
Yes.
And, the campers and the trailers, we weighed them down as much as possible, just basically playing for the best at the last moment. We wish we were able to do more, but it just happened that you couldn't do certain things at
Sure.
the speed you were going.
Well, what kind of pressure did you feel during this time?
Very heavy pressure. I have a wife, a 16-year-old son.
Yes.
And it was kind of, do we leave or do we not leave? Do we try to stick it out?
Walk us through that decision-making process about going inland, I would imagine, or going north from here.
So, like I say, they kept changing the path. So
Yes.
nobody was really sure if we should go to the other coast,
Yes.
or go inland, go south, or go north. So it was kind of, we'll just stick it out and pray.
Yeah.
Pray for the best.
Yeah. Well, you had, how many pine trees did you have come down here on the property?
I had 6 total pine trees and 12 palm trees that went.
And were you able to salvage the palm trees, or by just putting them back into the hole?
No, the palm trees were, too high to even try to stand back up.
All right.
A few of them were actually snapped right in half. There was, I had 8 cedar trees and a maple tree that went. So a lot of tree damage, a lot of stuff that you wouldn't expect those trees to go, and they were the first ones to go.
So the 6-hour mark comes, and you were getting rain at that point, and were the winds starting to pick up?
Not so bad. You were getting like feeder bands coming off the storm.
So it would come and go.
It would come and go. You knew the third feeder band is when we knew that it's going to get bad. It wasn't your normal thunderstorm.
Okay, so the winds were a lot more heavier at that point.
It was coming, and it was coming fast.
Now, how much rain do you think you had gotten to that point?
Probably maybe 4 to 5 inches,
Okay,
give or take.
So it was starting to fill up a lot of the gutters next to the road.
Yep, the ditches were starting to hold, a couple inches of water. That night of the hurricane, it seemed like it went from 4 to 5 inches of rain to 4 to 5 feet of rain because the water was just gushing from everywhere, and it was like you wanted to stop it, but you couldn't.
Yeah. Now, talk about that night, because that's when things got a little crazy around here.
Yes,
am I
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. So we actually went through the eye of the storm, and it wasn't so bad until the eye passed. And during the eye, they always say, the skies clear up and it's nice and sunny. Mm-hmm. And it was. It got sunny, nice and calm. You could see birds flying around. Lasted for about 4 to 5 minutes, and you could see this black wall just coming.
Yeah.
And that's when things got bad.
And at that point, were the winds coming out of the north on this side of the eye?
No, I guess they were coming from the south.
Okay.
East.
All right, southeast.
I guess that's the way they were coming.
Okay.
Right after the eye had passed over us, I remember going out to my garage, and I was trying to look out because that was the only window we could see out. Mm-hmm. And you could see the water coming down the road like a river, and the rain was going sideways, the trees were going sideways, and then you could hear this horrible sound, and they always say it sounds like a freight train.
Yeah.
But it sounded more like a helicopter. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was holding the garage door because the garage door was swaying in and out about 6 inches.
Wow.
And I said, that's it. We're going inside. And I grabbed my wife and I grabbed my son. And I said, we're going into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because we're going to lose this roof.
Yeah.
And knock on wood, we didn't.
Yeah.
But
how long were you huddled up in the bathroom?
We stayed in the bathroom for about 2.5 hours. And then I couldn't handle it anymore. I had to get out. I had to see.
Yeah. Now, did you hear any trees snapping during that time, or was the roar of the wind just
the roar of the wind? I don't know if it was because of the stuff that was hitting the house and the devastation, but I'd never heard a tree snap. I never heard the fences going. I never heard any of that. The only thing you'd hear was this mad, like super loud helicopter.
Yes.
That's what I heard the whole time.
So the storm passes slowly.
Very slowly.
So how many hours do you think that was between the eye going over and then getting all the feeder bands that were yet to go through?
For it to be completely over, it was a good 12 hours.
Now, during those 12 hours, what's going through your mind?
How am I going to get back to normal?
Yeah. What is normal, right?
What is normal?
Yeah.
How are all the people that just got flooded and lost their everything? How are they going to make it? How are we going to get help down here?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was there any radio up and going that you could get updates, or any TV or anything?
Everything was pitch black. We lost power. We lost power that night, probably about an hour into the storm. So
now, is that before the eye, during the eye, or after?
That was right before the eye. When we had lost power. So no power, no electric, or no way to communicate because the cell phone towers were already down. So it was kind of you were in the dark. Yep. It was going back into the dark ages. There was nothing. There was no light, no street lights. It was pitch black. It was scary.
So as a father and husband, what happened at that point? What decision making were you starting to make at that point?
At that point, it was kind of all about survival.
Yeah.
Because we knew this little area that we live in, we knew we either had to be rescued, taken out, or somebody was going to bring us stuff.
Yeah.
Where we're at, we were flooded in. the tree damage and the power lines, we couldn't get out. We couldn't even get out for 4 days. And luckily, they were around with airboats.
How long did the water stay up here in the neighborhood?
In the neighborhood, it didn't start receding till about 4.5, 5 days.
Yes.
You could start seeing it go down very slowly.
And the streets were impassable with all the debris?
All the debris, all the water. The geographics of Northport, there's a major artery road right over here.
Yes.
And the water actually had washed certain sections of that road out.
Wow.
So the way we're set back here, there was no traffic coming in, no traffic leaving because of those roads being washed out. So the airboats were coming in. They were bringing in airboats from all over Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all you heard for weeks, is airboats and helicopters, Coast Guard.
When you came out, was it just dead quiet out here?
It was dead quiet.
All the birds are gone.
There was no birds.
Yeah.
There was no. You can kind of hear the interstate right now.
Yes.
None of that was there. It was an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
A very eerie feeling, because it was like, wow, what do you do from here?
So tell us a little bit what happened when you walked out of the house and you saw where your hives used to be.
Where they were located, I didn't think they would be hit as hard. I had them in between some very large trees, and I thought they were going to be pretty much sheltered. And it turns out that was a big mistake, because they weren't sheltered at all. The trees that basically fell on top of them,
yes,
kind of tore them apart. And then my best guess is the wind took what was ever left and just got it out to the river of water out in the road. That's my guess.
Yes. What were your feelings at that point of just seeing your hobby disappear?
At that point, I was still numb about all the other devastation.
Yeah.
It didn't really hit me until about 2 days after the hurricane, and all my bees were
swarming. Because you're in survival mode at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And I came out here, and I came out, and all my bees were swarming. They were still.
Oh.
They were coming back, but I just couldn't.
Now you know why they were coming back, right? Because the GPS that they have, regardless of wherever they ended on up, that was home.
Right, that was home.
And they were coming back.
It was pretty neat. I knew they were okay.
But you really didn't have anything to put them in.
Didn't have anything to put them in. Everything I had right there was destroyed. It was water soaked, and I wasn't sure if I could rebuild them. I wasn't sure if I could mix hives with. I wasn't sure. So at that point, it was kind of like, well, we're going to let nature take its course, and they're going to make it somewhere else, in a tree somewhere or something.
That's understandable.
And that was within a day. They were gone. So it was very hard.
Yes, and I get it. Now, Shawn, did you just have wildflower honey, or did you have a particular honey that you harvested each year?
Nope, it was all strictly wildflower.
Okay.
A lot of palmetto tree.
And that's a more lighter amber. Am I correct on that?
Very, very, it's a very nice color.
Yes.
Like a light gold.
Yeah. Very good. Now, when you take a hindsight look, that Monday morning quarterback look, back at everything that happened, what would you do differently, given the circumstances that you were in, survival mode, and getting such a late notice that, hey, you're in the zone?
Yeah. For the bee-wise?
Bee-wise.
Bee-wise, I would probably, I think next time I would probably move them to a higher ground.
Yes.
Definitely higher ground, definitely higher off the ground, and most likely probably take hurricane ties and strap them.
Yes.
In.
Drill like dog wire hooks down into the ground.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think that's a very good thought to do on that. And higher ground always works too. But you know, Shawn, I think you did everything right. I think you did everything right, because the bottom line is you didn't know until 6 hours before it was showtime, and having the freight train of air and rain coming right through here. Yeah. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody could do anything different given what happened on September 28th, 29th, and thereon. And but we've got some stuff in the truck, and we want to bless you with this. All right. So let's go on over to the truck and let's dig into some goodies here.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shawn, today's a good day, and folks, we're here to make a difference, and you have made a difference, and we're going to surprise Shawn here. Shawn, you know, I told you on the phone a couple of weeks ago that I was going to bring you a hive, but our wonderful customers have stepped up, and they said, we want to help Shawn more. And today we got 4 hives for you.
Oh, that's
to
awesome.
get restarted, and the bees to go in them.
That's even
All
better.
right. So you'll have bees somewhere around the 16th of March.
Oh wow.
So you gotta get busy. All right. And Shawn, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you're doing out here, and we just want to be a blessing to you today.
That's a big blessing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for telling us your story. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming and listening to our story.
All right.
Definitely want to say thank you to all the people that made donations. You really have no idea how much it means to somebody that's lost so much. It's heart pounding.
And just a minute ago, you said it was Christmas.
This is our Christmas. We didn't really have too much of a Christmas. Still cleaning up and getting things sorted. So this is our Christmas.
Well, Shawn, Merry Christmas to you here.
Christmas.
All righty. All right.
Thank you so much.
I know the phrase "salt of the earth" gets thrown around quite a bit for good reason. It's in the Bible, but he really is a salt of the earth guy. Thank you, Shawn, for giving us a couple of hours of your time to come to your home and bring your story to the world.
He was a real humble guy, and I really appreciated Shawn's time and just being brutally honest of what happened to he and his family during that hurricane that came through, Hurricane Ian.
It was scary for a while.
Yeah.
It really was. And to come through it, but of course he didn't have the bees. The bees were washed away, but now, thanks to the Mountain Sweet Honey family, he's back in business for 2023.
Yeah, and we're shipping all the bees to our 3 beekeepers that we saw on this trip, Brian, on March the 16th. Those will all be going out in the mail, going to Florida.
Brad's story is still to come.
Yes.
He had a quite harrowing situation as well. You're going to want to stay around to hear that story. But we're about to hear an interview you conducted with Bobby Chaisson. I know that those of you watching, because you're in the beekeeping hobby, you are a beekeeper, you probably get phone calls from friends saying, hey, there's a swarm of bees underneath my picnic table. Would you come and get them?
Yeah, I think what Bobby is going to present to us here in a second is don't get yourself into trouble. And
because of legal issues.
Yeah, legal issues and state issues, regulations that are out there. So Bobby's going to walk us through what he has seen here in Georgia. And a lot of states are coming to Georgia and saying, hey, what are your regulations there in Georgia, so that we can kind of copy those over in another state. And so this is really kind of cutting news for those that are not regulated currently. I would dare say in the months and years to come, every state will be regulated.
This is an important interview.
Yes.
Appreciate you watching.
Well, let's roll it. I'd like to introduce Bobby Chaisson. Bobby's back with us. It was a great time last time he was with us and want to welcome him back. But before I do that, I want to just go through this guy's resume. It's very, very deep in beekeeping. He is a master beekeeper. He is the Georgia Beekeeper of the Year. And Bobby serves as a director for the Georgia Beekeepers Association. And last but not least, he is the president of the Tri-County Beekeepers Association. Bobby, you keep busy.
The bees definitely keep me busy, but it's something I absolutely love doing and very passionate about. So it's not work to me. It's something I love doing and enjoy sharing and talking about the bees.
And on top of that, you're also part of Georgia Bee Removal.
Yep.
And you are in the front on that for the company. Am I correct?
Absolutely. So I'm the operations director for Georgia Bee Removal. So I handle pretty much all of the day-to-day operations of everything that we do and perform all the bee removals and do all the talks and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, Georgia has come quite a long way in regulations on your industry that you're in. And bring us a little up to speed, our viewers and I, on what's happened here in Georgia, and kind of looking at everything within the domestic side of the United States. I know no, let's go back. All right, we're going to splice after Bobby replies to me. 3, 2, 1. Georgia is really unique when it comes to regulations, and it is new.
Absolutely.
And my understanding is that you've had a part in helping establish those regulations here in Georgia. Tell us a little bit about those regulations.
So certainly, Georgia, oh God, we've been working on this now for several years. Recognized that there was a need for a program or a way for people to become certified in bee removals, because it is a very specialized industry. And for years and years, basically what it amounted to by the letter of the law, shall we say, to perform bee removals, you had to have a structural pest control license. And to do that takes about 3 years for somebody to do that. So your average beekeeper that was doing, a few bee removals a year, even up to us that do a couple hundred a year, it was just unrealistic for somebody to be able to get that certification. So through the course of a few events that went on in the state, the Department of Agriculture, which are the ones that regulate this,
here in Georgia,
correct, were the ones that decided, hey, we need to do something so that these people can get a certification and provide a quality service that homeowners, when they contact somebody for a bee removal, know that they're getting somebody that's knowledgeable and qualified. Decided to come up with this regulation. So I've been involved since before the Department of Agriculture got a hold of it. And fortunately, the Structural Pest Control Division is the one that does the licensing for this type of work, reached out to the Georgia Beekeepers Association. And by my involvement with them, of course, I was one of the first ones they came to and said, we need you to help with this.
Now, what kind of timeline are we talking about when this got started until it got finished, and how many meetings and hurdles you had to jump through before it was law?
Yeah, so when we first, I guess, got this put in our lap, everybody from the committee that was formed to be on it, to the Department of Agriculture's committee, all the way through to the structural pest control folks, we thought we were going to be able to jump on this and knock this out in about a year. We quickly found out it was going to take a lot more time than that, because we basically took something that had never been done anywhere in the country and developed a program. We wrote regulations, we wrote training material, have delivered the classes, all of that stuff. So start to finish, we were looking, and it's been about 2.5, almost 3 years of developing all this, but it's now in place, and it's going very well.
Now, I've seen some circumstances like this where somebody would come in and cut through a ceiling, maybe create some more damage than just getting the bees out and charging the homeowner and then just walking away. And And I think this is what kind of inspired these regulations. Am I correct?
Exactly. That's part of it, and a few other things. But when the Department of Ag got involved with it and realized that there needed to be something there, there was a hesitance on the beekeeping side of the community to say, "Oh, we don't need regulation. We don't need this." And the Department of Ag side of it was, we want quality people providing a quality service, and we want homeowners to know that they're getting a quality service. So their side was, we want to protect the homeowners and the consumer, but we want to ensure that we are giving the beekeepers the information and the knowledge that they need. So it was kind of a two-way street, and it took some talking and back and forth and getting things ironed out. But we're one of only, I think, 2, maybe 3 states in the country that even have anything like this. Georgia really is the only state that actually has a program that I'm aware of specifically for bee removals and to offer a bee certification. So we've had several different states that have been contacting, the committee and the Department of Agriculture to develop something, for their states like this.
So what is the minimum threshold? If I was a beekeeper and I wanted to get into this business, where do I start?
So it's pretty simple. All the guidelines are outlined on the Department of Ag, on the Georgia Department of Ag's website. But basically, it amounts to, you have to attend an 8-hour class that is specifically done for bee removals, and we talk about the regulations and practices and steps to do that. You have to perform 3 bee removals, or cutouts, as people commonly refer to them as. Preferably, that would be under the supervision of somebody that is already certified. And then you have to fill out an application for an individual and a company, submit some fees for that kind of stuff. And you also have to have insurance. And there's a minimum requirement.
General liability?
Exactly. General liability insurance. And there's minimum requirements for that. And that's outlined on the Georgia Department of Agriculture's website as far as what those minimums are. But there again, it's not only to protect the homeowner, but it's also to protect the beekeeper, because you never know, and especially in doing bee removals where you're cutting into a structure, you might hit a power line, you might hit a water line, and we just want to make sure that you're protected as a beekeeper as well as the homeowner's protected.
Bobby, can you tell us about the other states that you've heard from, and where other states are looking to go? Are they going to copy Georgia, or are they going to kind of morph into something else? And how would a beekeeper know where to go and find out if there is any regulations in their given state?
So yeah, Ray, we've had, I know Texas has called and asked about it, and a few other states are definitely interested as far as their Department of Agriculture's watching and seeing what we're doing and how things are happening with us, and how the program's going. It's definitely one of those things, if somebody's interested in their respective state to start doing bee removals, I would say the best avenue is to start out with contacting their respective state Department of Agriculture or their structural pest control division within their Department of Agriculture, or if they have a statewide pest control program or company that oversees that for their state, contact them, do a little bit of an investigation. They can certainly go to the Georgia Department of Agriculture's website under the Structural Pest Control Division. Our entire manual that we developed, that we use to teach our program, is online. So they can get that information and see it and see what we're teaching and the program that we're putting out there and what our steps are. That would definitely be, the starting point to get involved in it. But it's a lot of work, to get to the level of doing them effectively and efficiently.
Bobby, tell me a couple of stories on why the regulations are there now here in the state of Georgia, where they weren't several years ago. Tell our viewers a couple of those stories.
Yeah, so there's one of the big problems that we've had is there are some folks, some individuals, and some companies that were going out and just spraying the bees.
Okay, when you mean spraying, describe what spraying is.
So they were coming out and would spray some kind of insecticide on the bees. Yeah, unfortunately they would, and would obviously it would kill the bees, but they wouldn't remove the honeycomb and all the honey and the dead bees in the house. And that was causing a substantial problem.
Now, when bees die in that volume of die out, there's a smell that comes with that. Am I correct?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You think of an individual bee as super small, but an average colony in the middle of the season is 60,000 bees.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people commonly it's about the size of having, a raccoon or a small dog dead in your ceiling or wherever they're at. So yeah, it definitely, not only the dead bees generate a huge smell, but the comb and the honey and the stuff starts fermenting, in the ceiling or the floor.
What type of dead animal would you say it smells like?
If you've ever driven down the road and there has been a deer that has been hit by the car and you smell it because it's been sitting out there for several days, that's what you start smelling in your house. And that's why this regulation is put in place, so that when a customer is calling someone to do this bee removal, that they know that this individual is not going to just come out and kill the bees. They are going to remove them.
Sure.
They're going to remove the honeycomb. They're going to get it cleaned out and fixed the proper way.
Because that stench from death will be fairly quickly.
Oh, yeah.
4 or 5 days after they die. And then it has to permeate through whatever's sheetrock or whatever. And it's not a good thing.
Absolutely. I had a poor lady that called me that a guy came out and said that he couldn't get to the bees. He said the best course of action was to just kill them. When I got to the house, the entire house, I literally could smell them from the front porch. It ended up taking me about 5 minutes to get to where the bees were. And that's the kind of stuff we're trying to avoid with this regulation, is that we don't do that we are providing that good service.
What other instance can you share with us?
So there's so many. I've seen so many different ones, but there's been times where I have seen people that don't have the technology to be able to find bees. We have thermal imaging cameras that our company uses to be able to find bees, and I've seen where they've come out and literally taken a hammer and just knock holes in walls or knock holes in block walls, just hunting for the bees. And with this new regulation and with the training that comes with it, we're teaching beekeepers how to effectively find the bees and how to properly find them and do the correct removal.
If a beekeeper in Illinois wants to start a business like what you've got going, where would you point them to get started?
I would say the biggest thing, of course, obviously, is first establish your business, go through that process and get your business set up in the right manner, create an LLC, that type of thing. But then as far as the bee removal aspects of it, I would direct them to their respective state Department of Agriculture, to their structural pest control division, because that's typically the division that's going to handle pests in a home. And then they should have some information at that avenue to get in the right direction, on the right foot to start. And they can always look at the Georgia Department of Agriculture's website, and all the information that we have developed is right there on the website. Our manual is on the website. They can download that, read through it. But I caution you, it's just a beginning of what you find on the internet. You definitely need some training and experience before you dive off in this as a full-time job.
Bobby, if we have somebody that's watching us today and they have some bees in their walls, can they contact you?
Absolutely. We field questions from literally all over the country. We've had phone calls from everywhere. We can diagnose a lot of stuff right over the phone or through pictures. We've been doing it long enough that generally with a few pictures or a short video that we're able to look at it and at least give them a direction or a little bit of information that we can get them on the right foot. And if they're in the Southeast, we'll be glad to help them out. We'll be glad to come out and do a removal for them.
And that normally starts, in February in the South here, and then it works its way up slowly over the next 3-4 weeks, and then you're in it for the rest of the season. Am I correct?
Absolutely. It, of course, depends on the weather. As soon as it starts warming up, the bees start stirring. So, yeah, we can typically start mid-February, and run all the way through September, October, just as many as we can get to. So we stay pretty busy.
And you not only do honeybees, you do other bees. Am I correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we deal, I think the easiest way to describe it is we deal with anything that flies and stings. That's
all right. Yellow jackets.
We deal with yellow jackets, honeybees, bumblebees, minor bees, just any kind of flying insect we deal with in some way, shape, or form. You know, a lot of the times we get calls for bees out in the yard that are minor bees, or sometimes we get mason bees in the house, and there's nothing that you need to do for them because they're perfectly harmless. But it's knowing what they are and fielding those questions that we're able to guide our customers to make sure they're doing the best thing for the bees.
Okay, can you share with us your phone number that if somebody has an issue with bees, that they can call you?
Absolutely. So if they'd like to get in touch with us, it's 404-516-1807. You'll actually get our office. I won't get me directly. But Pat that works in the office is fantastic. She does a great job on answering questions. You can certainly text us at that number and send us pictures. And Pat does really well, but sometimes she gets a little odd picture, we'll say, and she can send them to me, and we can diagnose pretty much anything through pictures and over the phone.
And you have a website. Tell us your website address.
Absolutely. It's gabeeremoval.com. That's got all the information about us, about Bill. We've even got bee identification page on there that'll give you some information about different species of bees and wasps and information about that. So you can contact us through the website as well. So we'll be glad to help you out.
And it's a fun website, folks. You can see the pictures of the various cutouts that they've done and extractions, and I found it very entertaining. Now, you mentioned Bill. Tell us about Bill Owens.
So Bill Owens is the owner of the company. He established Georgia Bee Removal several years ago. Got everything going. You know, he recognized many years ago that there was a need in Georgia for this. So he came up with Georgia Bee Removal, and he still does a few, but he's
now you're a master beekeeper, and what is his certification?
So Bill is the very first master craftsman beekeeper, which is the next step up from a master beekeeper. To kind of give you an idea, in the state of Georgia right now, there's a little over 1,100 certified beekeepers.
Yes.
As you progress up through the ranks of that,
it gets harder.
It gets much harder, and we're right now at about 60 master beekeepers.
Oh, wow.
There are only 7 master craftsman beekeepers. So that gives you an idea of how hard it is to reach that.
And the master craftsman beekeeper, that was a new certification level that came out, what, about 5 or 7 years ago?
It's been out for quite a while, actually. I'm not sure exactly when Dr. Delaplane started it, but the big difference in the master and the master craftsman level is it's a minimum of a 2-year experience between the two levels. But the biggest thing is that you have to do some kind of research that pertains to honeybees. So these master craftsman beekeepers that you hear have that title have done some type of pertinent published scientific research as it pertains to honeybees. So it's quite a bit of work to do that.
And he was the first one.
Bill was the very first one in the state of Georgia to obtain that rank. So pretty impressive.
And folks, I will tell you, Bill was the one that got me into beekeeping and taught me the foundational parts of beekeeping. And if Bill's watching tonight, I want to just say thank you, Bill. And we got to get you in here soon. Bobby, thanks for stopping by today and talking with us. It's been a pleasure, and take care, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ray. I really appreciate it.
I learned a lot of new things. Boy, I tell you what, legislation and rules and regulations, they're everywhere. And that was the purpose of having this interview with Master Beekeeper Bobby Chaisson, North Georgia Bee Removal. Did you learn anything?
Well, Bobby's the best of the best, Brian. And when it comes to extraction, I think he's been in it as long as I've been in business, 11, 12 years. And the company, Georgia Bee Removal, has just a really great reputation. I can't say that about others that are out there. They kind of leave a mess behind when they're done. And I think that's where a lot of this legislation is going to help improve those that are removing bees from homes or structures that folks are living in.
Well, as we've been discussing here on Buzz TV, sometimes it's the weather that removes bees from places. We've got our final interview from our Southwest Florida Hurricane Ian Save the Bees disaster relief trip coming up. And I just still have those vivid images of the destruction as we were driving out onto the island.
You're right, Brian, because, we didn't see the true destruction as we creep through Fort Myers heading to Sanibel Island. And I think we got the real awakening, you and I, as we were taking our truck out to the bridge and just seeing the devastation. All the blue tarps on the roofs got more and more, maybe
some of the little houses.
Maybe
that were
it was
in
only
the
2 in
lagoon.
10 houses that had tarps on them. But as we got closer to the ocean front and then onto Sanibel, it was how many didn't have a blue tarp or something on the roof. And this was roughly almost 90 days after the hurricane that we rolled in, and they were still in recovery completely.
The other thing I remember about this interview is the camera malfunction.
Yeah.
Or the operator error.
We had some camera issues on this particular.
You mean cameraman issues or camera issues?
Okay, Brian, you screwed up. All right. All right.
I had one job. There was only one reason Ray brought me on this trip. I had one job.
So I'm the mysterious guy talking, partially videoed, I think, on this one. And
we've moved Ray off screen, altered his voice, put him behind this black curtain.
But this is the best that we have, folks, from the footage with Brad MacKenzie here. And Brad's a great guy and a really great story. And I think the shocker to me, Brian, was, what do you write to your family when you're facing 150 mile an hour winds? It has blown the windows out of one side of your house and the water is coming up and you're on the second floor. What do you say? What do you do? And Brad's going to talk about what happened to him through this period of time. Hi, everybody. We are here on Sanibel Island in Southwest Florida, and I have with me today Brad MacKenzie. Brad, thank you for inviting us in today.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Well, folks, one thing I will tell you, and you've probably already heard, is we're in a construction zone. We got saws going on. We have music also, some little salsa music going on. So bear with us as we work through this interview. It is a construction zone, isn't it?
Everything on Sanibel is in the process of rebuilding. We'll get there.
Well, Brad, tell me a little bit about how many hives did you have before the storm here?
There were 50 hives all over the island. My thing with Sanibel honey is to produce honey here on the island with Sanibel bees only. And I put hives out at pretty much anyone's house who wants them. So if you come up and say, I want a hive, I'll maintain it for you. And I'll give you a couple jars of honey for your trouble and it's for fun. And then, maybe your garden will be a little better pollinated this year.
That's a real niche business model to have, because you have the diversity of nectar coming in, and you also get the environmental plus with all of your customers that are hosting you.
Well, and I think that's important for my customers, the folks on the island. It's a fairly environmentally conscious community here. About 2/3 of Sanibel is preserved forever, and right out back here, mangrove swamps that lead right out to Tarpon Bay, where sport fishing itself was invented over 100 years ago. And so the natural aspects of the island are really important, and so people are very excited, really. It's a good community morale booster to have bees be coming back, and that I'm bringing them back, and people are excited to have their hives back, and other people are just excited to have the cross-pollination of, you have to have bees to have things flower, and you have to have flowers to have bees survive. So that symbiotic relationship is going to be helped out by having some new bees here.
Well, before we get to the story about the hurricane, I got one more question. What are your nectar sources here? Name a couple for us.
Well, right now, I think the ones that are going to be good for us coming into this season are going to be the mangroves, the palm trees that have some fruit on them, and sea grape, which is this tree right over here, and there might be one back in the camera over there. The sea grape has a nice white flowery plant, and the bees love that. We have noticed it's extraordinary that there's some plants flowering here, very colorful plants, really just in defiance of the salt encrusted earth that we have here.
Yes.
And so it's encouraging to see some things really popping back. The oleanders over here have white flowers on them right now, which is unusual. It's January. That shouldn't be blooming right now. But it's thrown off, but it's trying to figure its way
It is
through.
kind of amazing when we have an impact of a storm that it does change the biome.
Yeah.
It either moves it up or moves it back.
Right.
And I've always been very, very surprised on when major events happen, what happens to the flora thereafter.
Right.
There.
And I'm a little more keyed into that right now, because when I do get these new hives, I'll be feeding them myself to make sure that they're comfortable and healthy and so forth. But before I move them out to people's houses, I want to make sure that they have something to eat. So they need to be able to forage something. And that's partly self-preservation. I don't want to have to go and feed 50 hives all over the island. I'd rather feed them right here in my backyard.
Yes.
But that's the trick is, do we have enough? And I think it's encouraging to see a lot of the grass come back, a lot of the ground cover come back, because there's certainly a lot of extra salt in this soil. And to have the nature fight back so proudly and quickly is encouraging for all of us.
And bees love salt too. They really do.
Yeah, let them have it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, let's rewind the clock. We're 3.5 months since D-Day here on the island, and Hurricane Ian was knocking, and was it September the 28th?
Yes.
Yes. Well, step us through. First of all, did you evacuate the island, or did you stay?
I thought that all I was going to do after this storm was pick up some windblown hives and put them back and say, you guys going to be all right? We had never had salt water above the foundation slab of my house. We're up about 8 feet here, the elevation of the house, and we got 15 feet of sea surge. So most of the island was under at least 5 feet, and some of it under considerably more. So no, the answer to your question is my girlfriend thought I was nuts, and she still thinks, she's still angry with me, I would say, that I didn't evacuate, because I thought that, it would just be another storm, and this was the big one. And
was that a Cat 3 or Cat 4?
It really landed as a Cat 5. The insurance companies are trying to say it wasn't, because new
data?
Well, new coverage comes into play if it's Cat 5. They have to pay more if it's Cat 5. So they're trying to keep it at Cat 4, but, they say 150 miles an hour here. I've been in 150 mile an hour winds in other places, in mountain areas when they're big storms. And when they were, the time that they said it was 150, I pretty much think it was 20 or 30 miles an hour faster than that.
So it might have got up to 170.
I think so. And so, at times it was definitely Category 5. I mean, 150 mile an hour winds are Category 5. So
you were on the first story, but the first story is about 10 feet up. Am I correct?
Yeah, a lot of us live on stilts.
Yes.
And ours are about 10-foot stilts. So the ground floor was, everything in it was wiped out, but it didn't get up to the living level.
Okay, so what do you hear? What when you were in this 150 to 170 mile an hour winds?
Yeah. Well,
what does it sound like?
It's loud, and the windows shake, and we didn't have hurricane windows, and 2 of them broke in the master bedroom. So I've got video from the storm, and you can hear how loud it is in the videos. But
you could hear debris hitting the house?
Well, there wasn't that much debris besides branches and so forth. Some people, in some areas, refrigerators and cars were floating by. Not so much here. One of my cars got wiped out and I replaced it, but it pushed against one of our stilts. And I thought at one point, I heard a loud crack, and I thought one of our pilings had given way. it's not clear that happened, but there are noises that scare you and intimidate you, and it's definitely, with the wind and rain pounding against your windows, it's noisy.
Now, when it got to that point, it was time to write a letter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Well, I grabbed a paddleboard just before the water rose up, got up to about that 5 feet, and went upstairs. I couldn't get the rope that was in the garage because the door was held shut by the weight of the water. But I got that paddleboard upstairs and started to figure out what my evacuation plan was. Here I was 3 miles out in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by a wild ocean, and realizing that my house is not going to float.
And there was no help on the way. Everybody was batting down the county and the city and everything, right?
Yeah, if I went out to sea, I wasn't going to be rescued. And the storm lasted a long time. It lasted until about 6 o'clock, from about 12 o'clock till 6 o'clock here. And it was bad before and after too, but that was the main part of it. And so to answer your question, when I was in the midst of it and before I really figured out my ditch plan, there was a moment of panic, and I wrote on the wall inside, "Andrea, my girlfriend, I love you. I was wrong. I mean, I should have ditched with her." But, like I said, no one
did
thought it would be...
she go inland, or did she stay?
She went over to Fort Lauderdale. Her sister lives there, and so...
The safe side of Florida.
For the most part, that day, yeah.
Now, the eye of the hurricane actually came through here, am I correct?
We were just on the edge of the eye, and that was why it was so brutal, is that especially as the eye passed us, the southwest part of the storm, where the winds are the most intense, went right over the island, and really, we were as heavily impacted as you can be directly, as a direct hit. And you can see that on West Gulf, which is the Gulf side of this island. Houses that burned, old houses that are completely gone. There's no foundation left. And big houses that are supposed to be securely built just down to the ground. It's awful. We're lucky in the way that you're lucky to survive a car accident, right?
Yes.
We're lucky compared to our neighbors, but we still got hit pretty hard.
Okay, so you wrote the letter on the wall.
Yeah.
And we'll get a picture of that.
Okay.
Now, you got your paddleboard.
Right.
Because this was your only escape, am I correct?
Well, that was the idea, as crazy as it sounds afterwards, was that I was going to get on my ski gear and my hard hat and put up my arms and land on shore. And I had to get my compass out to make sure I was going towards shore.
Because you couldn't see very far during that time.
You couldn't see very far.
Yeah.
But I did know, I know this, I'm facing north here, and so that way is land.
Yes.
If the wind was blowing that way, I wasn't getting on my paddleboard. Because
you're going to Texas.
Maybe.
Or Mexico,
or
one or the
somewhere.
other. Yeah.
I like it here.
Yeah.
But if I went that way, I figured with my arms up in a 100-mile-an-hour breeze, 3 miles to the mainland is probably 20 minutes max. And then I felt like maybe I'd be Tom Hanks in Castaway, and they'd have a film crew right down there saying, "Look, here's a guy coming from the island." I had it all romanticized. But the idea was that after that, I in my mind, I wasn't going to die that day. I was no longer going to die.
Well, to my right, which is roughly southeast, excuse me.
Yeah.
How fast did that water come up? Was it just a big wave that came in, or did it just come up very, very steadily?
It came up pretty fast. If you've seen The Shining, there's a hallway scene where the blood comes rushing down the hallway. I think it's in Her Dream, but that wave of water, and it was probably a little more than ankle high as it came around the corner and down the road here. And at that moment, I wasn't terrified, but within 20 minutes, it was 3 or 4 feet high, and within about an hour, it was as high as it was going to get. And to watch it come across this lawn and take out my beehives that were back behind here and just lift them off and float them away, that was a crazy experience. Even now, I mean, I think the trauma is wearing off, but it's still fairly recent.
So in a beehive, when the water starts coming up, it covers the entrance,
right?
And then the bees start moving on up until they have no room to move, and then they're drowned at that point.
And the only other thing that I saw was that a lot of my lids just flipped off in the 100-mile-an-hour wind.
Yes.
The thing is, it doesn't matter how these bees get exposed to those elements; they're not going to make it. The 100-mile-an-hour winds on these, I mean, we can't stand up. So for a queen and enough of her helpers to stay in a place that's safe, they have to be in something better than a hive box on the ground for sure. So the ones that I've found on the island that are feral bees, and perhaps some of my bees if they got lucky, but probably mostly the feral bees, live in palm trees that are bent over and the hive is underneath. And they were able, and that underneath section is facing away from where the weather was coming from. And those bees were decimated, but have still kind of clawed back and kept around. So I know there's one colony because I'm trying to feed them from a hive box now and hoping to attract a queen, or if it gets strong enough, maybe they'll split. But there's a colony somewhere here, and there's some bees coming around to forage. I don't know where it is, but that's the only really live hive that I've still got that I didn't know in certain palm trees. But whole areas in the north, there's a Sativa area in the north of here towards Captiva. In that area, there are a lot of feral bees in the palm trees in sort of the lower canopy there. And they've been there time immemorial, at least the last 50 years or so. And people tolerate them and like them, and they don't bother people because they're so high up. And occasionally people get them in their house, so I go and relocate them for them, that kind of thing. But that area was just decimated. The palm trees just aren't anymore. And so, you know, I don't know how many, there are countless numbers of wild bees that just lost their homes.
Well, Brad, you know, I know that at this point where the storm was the worst, you're more worried about your own life at that point. What was your feelings during the time thinking about the bees and everything, either before or after? Talk me through that.
It's actually funny you say that. It was more about me, and I think it was. But once I had my own safety plan in place, I really was thinking about my home, the community, and the community here for me includes the bees, and it includes the wildlife that we enjoy, and that what makes Sanibel so special. And it was sad, and it was frightening to know that I was clearly not in the worst place. I mean, that this was pretty bad, but I could tell during the storm from where it was coming from that the people on the coast, that this is a barrier island. Barrier island's called that because it's protecting the mainland with a sandbar. So we're living on this very fragile sandbar, and that west side is just getting pounded. And so, you know, to drive down West Gulf to this day, where there's still not electricity, or, you know, certainly not internet for most of these people, because they don't have most of a house for most of them. It remains very sad. And, you know, these were elegant homes owned by well-heeled people, unless they were little beach cottages that still were in there. And like I said, the beach cottages are gone. It's incredibly sad to lose that part of Sanibel, because we all, no matter how big our house is, we identify with the beach house people. And those little cottages, the little real cottages, two or three bedrooms on the ground, one single story. And we have one set of friends, the couple that tied themselves to each other in their single family, stood on their bed and were still losing air. So they ditched their house in the middle of the storm, wrapped themselves around a tree and held on to it for 2.5 hours while the cars and the refrigerators and the debris were flying by. The water was pretty warm, it turns out, but what an absolute terror for these people who've been here their whole lives.
Because it's the debris that will kill you.
The debris will hit, yeah.
If the water doesn't, I'm not there. Well, we have what's left of your 50 hives here. Am I correct on that?
Some of these are recovered from around the island. Most of them really, even in this shape, they're not really usable because I don't know what's in them now.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff that floated by could be toxic. And even today, this is one of my bee days. You can imagine I have a lot of work to do that isn't related to the bees right now. But one of the things I'm going to go through here and see if I'm going to keep any of these frames or foundations. And most of them, frankly, the moths are coming back, the bugs. You know, there are so many bugs here, and if there's any trace of something edible, they're infesting these things. And so they look clean from this side, but inside they're not doing so well. And so a lot of this equipment is just going to be ditched for new equipment.
You have a great point, is you don't know what was in the water. It could be oil from a car. It could be acid from a battery that has gotten loose, and those toxins there. So I get it, and I think that's a wise thing on your side. Now, Brad, when you do a look back, what would you do differently, given that you're in a storm area? It's not ever been this bad since you've been here. Am I correct?
Right. Yeah, in 100 years.
And we have customers all around the Gulf Coast, from Houston downward all the way through Louisiana, and Alabama, Mississippi, and of course here in Florida. Yeah. And then of course all up and down the Atlantic Ocean coast.
Right.
If you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently?
Well, I think I would. It's hard to do something differently, and I have thought about that. You know, in a perfect world, you would pick up all of your hives and put them on a second story if you knew the first story was going out.
Well, hold on right there. How much of a notice did you actually have that Ian was on his way and coming in hot?
Right. If I said 3 days, I'd be giving myself as the maximum amount.
Okay.
To pick up 50 beehives all over here.
No.
And take them to Fort Myers, take them off island.
Yes.
Find a storage place that would take live beehives into their storage place and keep them on the second floor. Now, the thing is, I would never put them on the second floor because a storage place is going to lose its roof. That's my thinking, right? Yeah. So I don't want to put them on the second floor. I want them on the ground floor. Well, there's lots of water still in Fort Myers from the ocean from 3 months ago. And so, that really wouldn't have worked. And I look at my friends and some of the commercial people, the way the storm went through the middle of Florida, you can't anticipate or prevent the kind of damage that happens to some of these enormous yards. I mean, there's just nothing you're going to be able to do to save those kinds of things. For me, I really think there's no way to have suspended these hives in a safe way. Where would they go? If I had a whole building with 2 stories in it, that would work. That's obviously not where my business is coming from when I've got 50 hives and I'm just making some local
So it's a no-win situation for you with
really
these hives.
Yeah.
Because of being at 50 different locations here on the island and you would have to have help picking them up, putting them on a trailer.
Right.
And you're not going to get 50 hives on a trailer.
Right.
And so I get it. It was a no-win position.
There's something, you get a big truck and you put all of your hives on it and you drive it out of Florida. You drive it away and stay out of it. But you're still going to have a lot of loss if you do that. And your bees are not going to be happy. That's one of the great things about being on this island. On my Facebook page, I have photographs and videos of the places where some of these hives are. And one is on a pond that has this beautiful fountain that has a light under it that changes, so it's blue and red and yellow. And the caption on the thing says, this is waterfront living for bees. What a life for bees in Florida. And those hives, their waterfront property was just swept away. The cinder blocks that they were on are gone over there. And, but that's, there wasn't really any picking up the hives and saving them somehow that I can that was reasonable at the time.
So where do you go from here, Brad? You know, you've lost all of your hives. You're fighting with insurance on your house, as most people are, my understanding here on the island. What do you do with the hives at this point? What do you want to do with your hobby?
Well, I want to rebuild because it's going to be good for community morale, and I love my bees.
Yes.
And I started a GoFundMe. People sent me money outside the GoFundMe to avoid the fee and so forth. And I've gotten a good amount of support for that, which means that, you know, my losses are going to be subsidized coming back. I'm going to have 50 hives now. I mean, I grew from 1 hive to 50 hives in 2.5 years because my girlfriend gave me a hive for my birthday in June 2.5 years ago, and it just grew organically. If I just bought 50 hives right now and I didn't know what I was doing, I'd be in trouble. But I've learned a lot. I mean, you can learn to beekeep pretty well, and I think I'm a good beekeeper. So I've gone ahead and found 50 hives with the bees that I am going to bring in here, and you can still contribute to my fundraiser.
Yes.
I still need some money there, but the point is that everybody here wants their hives back. Everyone here is engaged with that process, and you know, we're gonna make Sanibel honey work again.
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal.
That was a happening place. All the salsa music that was going on and the construction next door.
Real world.
Yeah.
Real film.
Enough to get a cameraman frustrated and flustered.
Yeah.
No, but Brad, it was nice to get to interact with him and hear the story. Of course, you know, the lettering, the writing with the Sharpie on the wall, that's powerful. But for me, it was just the thought that he was going to try to ride the hurricane back to the mainland. Wow. I'm not sure I'm up for that.
A surfer dude.
Wow. He's more of a man than I am.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
I don't think I would do that.
No. But again, thanks for welcoming us to Sanibel, and your bees, as Ray's already alluded to,
March 16th,
coming soon.
Going out.
One of the things that we've been doing here at Buzz TV, the Buzz TV studio, is filming a lot of product videos so that when you go to the Mountain Sweet Honey website, you can see a visual demonstration. You want to tell folks about what we're doing?
Folks, what we have done, which no one else in the beekeeping business has done, is we have videoed almost all of our products. So what you'll do is you'll see, go on any particular product, and right under the add to your cart, you'll see a little video play button, and just click on it, and you'll see a video of me talking about that various product. And we've got about, I'd say about 2/3 of our product is now up and running on the website. And it's been a fun thing to do, but also very tedious. A lot of hours spent on production.
I just know when I go to buy something, if I can watch a video on it, if you go onto Amazon, there at the bottom, they'll have videos that people have done. And sometimes clicking on that video makes me realize, oh, that is exactly what I need, or that's not the product that I need. It's just nice to have the video there.
Well, it also helps the beekeeper become more familiar, Brian, with the product and why the product is necessary or unnecessary for that given beekeeper. So these videos really kind of cut to that chase.
The one that I've got my eye on is that Cool Vest.
All right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, this Cool Vest, folks, is just absolutely phenomenal. We have them in manufacturing right now. And basically, it goes on your front, goes on your back, and put it into the freezer, Brian, for 3 hours before you need to use it. Go on out in July, August, and September, and love beekeeping to the max, because you're not going to be sweating up a storm as other beekeepers that are not using the Cool Vest. So we've got that as a new product. We're taking it as a back order now. We will be shipping those on May the 1st, if not earlier. And I think this is going to be a big hit with our beekeepers on that. And speaking of new products, we have for years and years not offered glassware for honey jars. And this year we're coming in a big way. We've ordered about a semi and a half load of glassware. And this will be the classic glass jars, 1 and 2 pound, and the queen line glass jars, 1 and 2 pound. And those are the most popular glassware that's out there, Brian, for beekeepers. So when they process their honey, they got to put the honey into something to sell it to their customers. So we've got those. We're going to be very, very competitively priced. We want to see your business on this. This is a new line for us. And it's taken up a lot of room, Brian, in our warehouse too. So we want to get it out of our way. So be watching us. We'll be putting, we do have the classic glass jars on the website right now. The queen line jars will probably be up within the next couple of days on that there. So those are some really great products that, one, we've engineered with the cool vest, and the second one is we're just finding enough room in our warehouse to house all this new inventory.
Tell you what, folks, a lot is happening. It's that time of the year. Be thinking about what you need to add for your hobby, your business. Find us over at mountainsweethoney.com. Because of their support of Buzz TV, we're able to be here bringing you this content. And we have so much more planned in the days, weeks, and months ahead, and invite you to go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that when we're back next, you'll be notified.
And I want to say thank you to all those that subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think, Brian, we had like 3,200 folks that signed up to watch us on YouTube.
It's blowing up.
Yeah, yeah. And it's amazing that we've seen some of our videos that are viewed 1,500 times within the first 24 hours. So thank you for subscribing to our channel.
Folks, we will see you back in March. We know that is busy bee season, but we'll have lots of information that will help you guys as spring will finally be here.
Folks, have a great evening and see you in March.